Good day to all the listeners. I'm Andre, by the way. I am 19 years old and currently studying here in Iloilo. I'm in college taking an engineering course. The story I'm going to share with you today was just told to me by my grandmother. My dear Grandma Clara. She is 85 years old. She lives with us because she can no longer stay in her own house by herself. I noticed that Grandma was sitting near the window all day, watching the outside of the house as if she was waiting for someone, or maybe she was remembering something from her past. One time, while Mom and Dad were away, Grandma called me. She told me to sit in front of her. She thought that maybe I was still the young Andre whom she always told stories about the events of her life. I granted her wish. I sat down like a toddler, eager to hear what story my elderly grandmother wanted to share. Here is her story. Grandma Clara was still young when she knew something was different about her parents. She can't say what it is, but she can feel that her parents, especially her mother, were not normal. One of the things she noticed was the strange dishes they had every day. They very rarely cook vegetables or even eat fruits from the small garden in the backyard. If they cook vegetables, only Grandma and her father would eat it, while her mother would always say she was full and leaves the house for a while. Often the dish served on their table is chicken or goat meat, even though they don't have any pet chickens or goats that can be slaughtered. It was also impossible for her father to buy meat frequently because her father's income was not that big. Grandma's father was just a farmer. Her father's farm was not that big, while her mother was just a housewife, taking care of all the housework as well as taking care of her. So her father's earnings are only enough for their daily living. Where does the chicken and goat meat come from? This is what Grandma Clara always asked herself. She just thought that maybe their kind neighbors gave them food every day, even though their neighbors lived far away from her place. Another thing that Grandma Clara noticed was that her mother was always missing every night. The three of them sleep side by side on the bamboo pallet. They will just cover it with a tin mat and they will lay it down at the same time. Grandma notices that her mother always leaves the house when it is midnight. Sometimes she woke up suddenly in the middle of the night with her mother gone, while her father was sound asleep. She will wait for her mother to return, but she always fell asleep again while waiting. Once, Grandmother asked her mother what was the reason why she sometimes disappeared at night. "My dear, you will understand at the right time." This was her mother's answer to her. Since then, Grandmother never asked her parents again. What else does she need to know? She was loved and raised well. And although her parents were sometimes strange, she knew in her heart they were not bad people. One day, while Grandma was playing outside, she was approached by a child who may have strayed from their neighbors. She didn't know this girl. She was almost her age, so she thought she was just going to play with her. "Hey!" the girl called. "Do you know your mother is an aswang?" Grandma frowned at that moment. Of course she didn't believe what the girl said. "Hey! What are you saying?" "That's not true," Grandma shouted loudly. "Then don't believe it if you don't want to. I'm just telling the truth. You know why? I saw your mother in our yard last Monday. That night, she was on her knees while she was eating our chicken raw. And my father said that only aswangs eat raw chicken. So I'm sure your mother is an aswang," the girl said. "That's not true," Grandma shouted at the girl. At that time, Grandma was really angry. What child would be happy that an unknown girl accuses your mother that she is an aswang? Grandma entered the house crying. she immediately looked for her mother in the kitchen. When she found her, she quickly hugged her mother tightly. "Oh dear, why are you crying?" asked her mother. "Mom, the girl who came here earlier said that you are an aswang." Her mother just smiled at her. She also hugged her and kissed her on the forehead. "My dear, who are you going to believe? Ha, Clara. Is it your mother or any child out there?" "You, of course, Mama," Grandma answered. "My dear Clara." Her mother sighed. "Come on, let's eat. Come with me and let's eat my sweetened banana." Days passed and it was no longer a problem for Grandma Clara about some rumors that her mother is an aswang. She thought that the neighbors were just making up stories like that, especially that their house is the only house in the middle of the forest and they're living in isolation far from other people. But one night, Grandma finally realized that those stories she had heard about her mother were not just rumors. It was late at night, she and her father were both asleep when suddenly something hit the roof of their house. Grandma was jolted awake and she immediately looked up. Her father was also awakened by the loud noise and was looking intently at the roof. He lit the gas lamp on the wall and then brought it to their bed. "Anak, I'm just going out for a while. Don't follow me no matter what," her father said, then he quickly ran out of the house carrying the lamp. But Grandma was sometimes stubborn, and that night she didn't listen to her father and immediately followed him outside. She doesn't care if she gets scolded. She just wants to know who or what made that noise on their roof. But she was shocked and could not believe what she saw. Her father was kneeling while embracing her mother. But there was something more shocking at that time. At her mother's back were the two gigantic hairy wings that seemed to be lifeless, lying limply on the ground. The light from the gas lamp was just enough for her to see her mother's long, sharp fingernails. Her glaring eyes were red and her mouth was open with sharp teeth. In her mother's chest was a long sharp spear that pierced through to her back. Blood flows on the ground. Instead of being afraid of the fact that her mother was indeed an aswang, she felt more compassion and heartache for her mother. "Dear, what happened?" asked her father to her mother. Her father was crying hard. "The man who owned the goat which I was eating earlier stabbed me. I thought they were all asleep. But they were just waiting for me at the top of a tree. The spear must have hit my heart." Her mother answered weakly. Her father cried even more. Grandma was just standing, looking at her mother. She didn't make a sound but her tears kept falling and she felt so much pain in her heart. "I'm going to die, dear. Please call Clara. I want to give her something." Grandma heard her mother and slowly went to her. "Mama. I'm here, Mama." She hugged her mother who was struggling for life. "Mama, don't leave us. Mama, please, don't die." Her mother touched her cheek, wiping her tears. "Clara, bring your face closer to me. I want to give you something." Grandma Clara did what she was told. Her mother opened her own mouth and a little black chick came out. It crawled and approached Grandma's mouth and forced itself inside her mouth. It entered and disappeared down to her throat. "Clara, that's my legacy to you. That's also the legacy given to me by my parents. From now on, you'll be the one to continue our aswang race. But let me remind you to use that ability for good. Goodbye. Goodbye, anak. I love you so much." At that time, Grandma Clara's mother finally died. Since then, Grandma has become an aswang. Her body no longer tolerates vegetables and fruit for food. Only meat can satisfy her hunger. But even so, Grandma never once ate human meat. This is where Grandma Clara's story ends. After hearing all that, I don't know how to describe what I felt, whether I was scared or happy that we are from an Aswang race. At that time, I realized one thing, that the day will come when Grandma Clara dies and the black chick will definitely be inherited by my mother. And I know that the day will also come when my mother will die, and if that happens, it will be my turn to inherit the black chick. Because I am the only child of my mother, and I will have to continue our Aswang lineage. That's all of my story here. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you like it. Please support my channel by subscribing, liking the video, leaving a comment, and sharing this video. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you will be updated on the next stories. Thank you.